Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, and my guest today is a former mermaid. Yes, she is. That might sound interesting to some of you, but we really don't care. The times we're in right now is we're honoring every single potential, possible, and reality of past lives. And Ameera Atlantis remembers her life in Merlantis, and she is going to share her story with us. Hello, Ameera Atlantis. How are you today?
Aloha. Thank you, Dani. It's so wonderful to be with you.
You too. I know that we haven't seen each other like in this regard for a year. I did interview you last year, and it's a fantastic broadcast. It has so much information. And right now, because of the way the world is, because the way that things are coming up for people in terms of their past life, are they a returning ancestor? Are they of another beingness in a past life incarnation? And what you have to offer is a really intriguing and thought-provoking analysis of Atlantis. So I would like to hand over to you and to your memory of Merlantis, and for you to explain the difference, please.
Okay, very good. So I have a couple of missions from Spirit. One is to speak to them about the Mer people of Atlantis and speak about the Mer people in general and the importance of our reincarnation in droves on this timeline in supporting the sacred feminine rising and the harmonization with the divine masculine. The mermaids of Mintaka, that is where I originate from. We'll maybe talk a little bit about that. And then also the Atlantean timelines, the importance of restoring and healing the Atlantean timelines, and why some people might not feel so, happy that that's happening, or might feel some kind of way about Atlantis, and how you can overcome the shadow Atlantis side if you carry that and understand why Atlantis is important and why we have to pay attention to what's happening right now. So that's kind of my jumping off point. And if you have a specific question you want me to lead with, that would be terrific.
I think if you could explain to us the difference between Atlantis and Merlantis.
Okay, so when I first remembered being a mermaid, it was through a past life regression. I had some things happening in my body. My arms were moving, involuntarily of themselves. My whole body was moving. My arms were doing these swimmy like motions without, just coming up through me, and I didn't know it was happening. So long story short, I went to a past life regression therapist in Portland, Oregon, where I was living. She put me on the couch. I went into the hypnosis, and I immediately became a mermaid, like jumping up and down on her couch like this, exclaiming, I'm a mermaid, I'm a mermaid. And all I could think in my head was, this woman is never going to believe me. She's going to think I'm nuts. How the feeling was so somatic and so real in my body, I couldn't deny it. I trusted myself to fall completely into the experience. And, of course, she'd heard it all before. And she just kept encouraging me to go and ask me questions. And I saw within the waters, swimming downtown, this beautiful underwater city. And in that moment, I identified it as what I thought was Atlantis. And what's funny about this, and you and I talked about this in the last broadcast, I don't know if you remember, I saw everything as a cartoon. I felt like a cartoon. The underwater city felt like a cartoon. And in my head, and maybe this was a test from Spirit, I don't know, to really believe in myself. In my head, I'm like, I'm making this up. I saw this somewhere in a cartoon, right? But the feeling was so palpable and so strong within me that I trusted myself. And I continued on to experience and remember and receive messages from my soul that I am indeed an incarnated mer being that once lived in Atlantis. So over time, more regressions, going through my regression training, I realized that it was not Atlantis that I saw under the sea. It was the underwater kingdom, the Mer Kingdom, known as Merlantis, which was the sister city to Atlantis, as they existed simultaneously on those Atlantean timelines.
Incredible, really incredible. Now, you said that you came from a planet originally. You were originated on a place called Mintaka.
Yes.
Where is that? Now, there has been some negative connotations towards that, as there is with everything, you know. But let's try and bring some real,
Okay.
clarity and proof and validate the goodness, the greatness of that aspect of our solar system.
Orion's belt, or Orion in general, tends to get kind of the negative connotations or association to it. And when I first heard, I had a healer once, a couple of them tell me I was from Orion, and I read about Orion beings. It just didn't resonate with me at all. They were kind of known for warring and being very aggressive. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound like my soul at all. And it wasn't until I discovered or realized that there was a star system in Orion's belt, the westernmost star called Mintaka, which was the blue water planet, and started reading and getting information on Mintaka, that I realized that was the space in Orion's belt that I came from, which had a very different energy than most of the rest of the stars or the planets or whatever makes up Orion. So that will kind of clarify that Mintaka was kind of its own universe, and did not take part in the warring or the aggressive aspect that much of Orion is known for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Going back to Mintaka, can you tell me your first memories of that place? How were you born? How were Mer people formed?
That's a really interesting thing. And you asked me this question the last time. And remember and no one had ever asked me this time, of like where I originated before Mintaka. And I was told I originated from the aqua ray. That I was birthed, and probably many other were birthed through the aqua ray. There are 5 distinct blue water rays. And I believe that the Mer of Mintaka were all birthed through one or more of those rays into that star system. That's the best answer that I can give you.
Right. As difficult as it is at this time for people to recognize or even accept or acknowledge that there are many off-planet beings who have really literally created us, not one single God, but we are
Right.
experiments, the animals, the insects, the people, the beings. I know it's very difficult for people who are trapped under the guise or the realm and the programming of a religion where they're not allowed to even imagine that concept, which is why everything we're talking about is so horribly mocked
Yes.
and jeered at and judged. So who were the over people that created the Mer people? Do you know?
When I feel into that, I feel a great mother and father Mer being, an aquafarian pair that were birthed through the central fugal center point of the Vesica Pisces when the original 144,000 souls were birthed. And they became the creators of the Mer, at least the Mer of Mintaka. There are other Mer that exist in other planets and star systems. There's, a Syrian Mer. I believe there's Mer from many other galaxies. When I go into who created us, it was the joining of the kind of the parent aquafarian who wanted to create through one of the 5 or all of the 5 blue rays, a race of Mer beings that were eventually going to become the first settlers, or the first Mer beings ultimately of Earth.
Yeah, it's so incredible. And talking of the 5 rays, there's so much information that came to pass, let's say, in this last kind of movement, this spiritual revolution that was happening. Well, it's been happening forever. But if we
Right.
pay attention from the 1990s, let's say, until this moment, there was a total and utter awareness, awakening of angels and mermaids and fairies and unicorns,
Yes.
all these beautiful mythical legendary, and there was an opportunity for that information to come flowing through, and yet it was so blocked and so judged and so mimicked and so
Yeah.
you know, harassed and hounded out. And now we're seeing in the last few years this energetic frequency, these stories dropping back into our awareness yet again. There's a little more of an opening, but I fear that in between the last time and this time, there have been these very much affected, manipulated informations that have come in, one such as the 144,000. Now, the way you just delivered that, beautiful. What a lovely thought to think that there were at some point 144,000 original soul beings. And yet there are other people that don't believe that to be true, but that's all right. We don't have to. All we're doing as individuals in these vessels is trying to understand our own individual story, because there is like 50,000 different versions of what potentially could Dani be, could Ameera be, could, and so it's advisable just to open to all of it. But isn't it exciting that I can ask you these questions that people have, and for you to give us your truth of your own understanding, even if at some point we all stand next to each other after this movement has totally lifted and lit up, and then we go, oh, there was a bit missing here and a bit missing there, because I think there's stuff missing for all of us, but I think collectively we can create an understanding of bringing love together, which is what I always think where we're always going. It's to love. It's to love.
Right. And in my understanding, I do not teach exclusivity. I do not believe there are 144,000 beings who will ascend and that's it.
Good.
In my understanding, in my teaching, is that the 144,000 open the gateway or the portal or the ability for all beings to play and all beings to win or ascend when they are ready and when they choose it. There is no judgment about the timeline of a soul, because we all get to play in the multidimensional field. Some are going to continue on and have some more earth experiences in the new timelines or their new, you know, their new reincarnation cycle, because they're not done learning, or maybe they're not done harmonizing and balancing karma, relationships, the lessons and things, the things that we create in our life. Maybe they're not done harmonizing and balancing that and need to come back and just give it another go and see what they can create this time around.
Well, bugger that. I'm not coming back. I'm hanging up my boots and I'm buggering off home.
You know, I am really doing everything I can, and to be conscious and self-aware of my actions, reactions, my relationships, and what I am doing with everybody in this sphere of my life, and doing my best to heal that and to harmonize that, so I don't leave anything left behind, so I can hang up my boots too, or my fins. And go on to the next assignment like that. You know, that's my very conscious, concerted effort, is to clear up all my misdoings, all my human foibles, you know, so I can move forward.
I love it. So just a point of reference. So the broadcast before this one was with this beautiful Irish lady who's now in her 70s, and she was forcibly taken from her mother because the stepfather thought he would help himself to her tiny little body in the worst imaginable ways. And this little girl was then tossed into a Magdalene laundry, because they like to insult the memory of Mary Magdalene, because she was such a powerful goddess, empress, beautiful woman being, the most powerful disciple, it is said. And again, these are stories that we've been told, right? And we're in this time of feeling into what resonates for me. And so again, as this lady was sharing her story, and that she was a throwaway in a laundry, you know, she was a slave for many years in this reality, you know, there's her on one side and there's you on another. And each individual human being is judged so harshly by others, and in so many different ways. And we all do it. We've all done it. I do it. I've done it. And we're doing it because we're searching and we're seeking, and we don't like to feel unsafe. So in that broadcast, it was a case of shining the light in the face of organized religion, right? To say that you are wrong. They have made terrible mistakes on humanity. It doesn't serve humanity. We can no longer allow those structured religions that don't let people be who they be, you know, because it judges them too harsh. It doesn't work for humanity. We're ascending. The same with you, Ameera. You are you know in every cell of your being, you are a water being, you are a Mer person, and you have been gifted with a tap in to Mintaka, a tap into memories from past lives that, again, people will take one look at you and say, you're off your nuts, you're a lunatic. I mean, I know what that feels like. It happens to me all the time and I don't care.
Yeah.
But and so what would you say to people that are literally having all of their belief systems shattered right now?
Mm-hmm.
How could you speak to them to that?
Well, okay. So when I first started talking about being Mer, I was really worried about that. But the only people who really seemed to judge me were the people closest to me.
Yes.
They were the ones who think I was off my rocker, right? But when I started talking publicly and doing YouTube videos and teaching courses and things, I actually received overwhelming support from other, mostly women, who went, thank you. I feel like I'm a mer being too. Or I feel like I'm from the fairy realm, or I feel like I'm from this realm. Like, thank you for acknowledging that this is a real thing, because I'm afraid to tell anybody. And anybody I do tell is like, they don't get it. They don't understand. So I had to learn very early on, probably like you did when you started this show, you have to have no fucks to give.
Yeah.
When you're in your truth and you have a spiritual assignment and a mission, like I felt if I didn't talk about this, talk about the Mer people, talk about Atlantis, I felt like I would die, like a spiritual death,
Yeah.
if I didn't leave the relationships that were not supporting me in my mission and stay in my truth, I knew my soul would die, and I knew I would be creating something for myself energetically, karmically, whatever you want to call it, that would cause me to maybe have to come back down at some point. If you acquiesce to the status quo, to the family expectations, right? To the ancestral, the cultural, the religious expectations, it's very hard to think to brush up against that and stand in your own truth and power. Those of us who have done it have paid the price in many ways, but ultimately we have also exalted ourselves in our strength and our confidence and our courage. The other thing I want to note is, as much as I acknowledge myself as Mer, I also acknowledge myself as a human woman. I am flesh and blood with a human soul and spirit, and I am very grounded into my lower chakras and this earth, as well as my higher connection. I understand you have to have the above and below. You have to have the grounding and the etheric meeting in the middle to properly, I guess, walk upon this earth and not get lost in the illusion of I could be in this illusion of I'm a mermaid and I'm above and beyond the earthly rules and your whatever. I am a mother. I am a partner at times. I am somebody's daughter. Okay, I am a human woman, and I have earthly stuff I got to take care of, as well as my spiritual assignments. So I just want to be very clear that I am not lost in thinking, in the delusion of thinking that I am anything other than fully integrated as both.
That's great. Thank you so much for that. That was beautifully put and claimed and established. Yes. And that needs to happen so that the judging, the judging Julies out there, and there are a lot of those, as we know, can listen to a grounded alpha woman who commands her own empress energy, which is what we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. Because part of my mission, we're going to delete that crone word, because it's actually a degradation, the way that the world perceives it and the energy attached to it. We are the child, the maiden, the empress. That suits us better than the child, or the virgin, the maiden, and the crone. The crone, what you're gonna? No, we're not having it. What I love, right? And we get to do this. We get to rewrite what is best for the collective, not for the individuals.
Well, and women are in our generation, like, we look totally different than even like our mother's generation. We don't look like that archetypal crone. We don't cut our hair short unless we want to. We're not. We don't start dressing you know, for our age.
Right.
We have these beautiful forms that we take care of, that we are loomed by, and we get to show up in appearance any way we feel we want to, that helps us to feel beautiful.
Right, right. Amazing. Now, talking back to judging for a minute, because it's a very important aspect as people are coming into their empress or emperor
Right.
nest, and knowing who they be, and not even if someone comes at them. I mean, I think whenever I do this myself personally, whenever someone says something that I might not like, even if it hurts, I will
Mhm.
always look at that. I will always listen. I will always check my ego. Dani, is there something you need to listen to or hear? Are you overstepping? Are you this? Are you that? And I'll give you an example. Lemuria, also known as Kauai in my
Mhm.
world. Okay. And if
Yes.
Kauai is a Hawaiian island, as we know, beautiful, beautiful. And she's a very, very strong energy. And if you're not meant to be on Kauai, then you'll get your ass handed to you. There is a very specific a soul frequency that she accepts in all people. Some people come there for a lesson to learn, some people come there to
Right.
live, some are stewards of the land, etc. But what I've noticed as I've been there over the 20 years, the first time I went there, I knew that I had had many lifetimes on that land.
Yeah.
And so people, they assume in 2023, 2022, oh, who's that coming here? Who is she? You know, and that is the wrong head and the wrong eyes to view something through. And it's an opportunity for people to look at themselves. Where is the child in them? Are they not feeling seen? Are they not feeling honored? Are they devoted and dedicated to Lemuria, let's say, or Kauai
Yeah.
for so long? And the answer is yes, they've devoted lifetimes. And they look at people, especially in a white skin, let's say, everyone gets triggered by the skin, by the racism, by the this, by the that. And they decide, well, you can't be here. You can't be that. Who are you to say you're a visiting ancestor or a returning ancestor?
Mhm.
I would say, who are they to say that we are not? You
Yeah.
know, and you know, and the actions of those who are returning ancestors like me trigger and piss off and emotionally trigger a lot of people. The intention is never to hurt, but the triggers are there for a reason. And
Yeah.
this is a time of mass healing and mass coming together, you know, mass coming together. Um, and the Hawaiian people, the beautiful indigenous, the sacredness of them is very strong amongst them. And then there are others that have no idea of the island that they live on. And I was in a car with a friend months ago. We were driving down the Anahola beach, and he was going 19 miles an hour. And this woman, there was a whole group of local people, beautiful local people, and this woman screamed abuse, verbal abuse, at this great big huge white man. And when we turned the car around, I didn't know he was going to kind of pull over. I'm glad he did, because it really showed me the levels of consciousness everywhere we go.
Right.
And as he pulled over, he said to this lady, hey, I just wanted you to know I was only going 19 miles an hour. Like, he was totally like this innocent,
Yeah.
like, wanted to assure her, I respect this 25-mile road here. I'm doing 19. She came undone. She
Yeah.
went straight into warrior mode. And within
Right.
3 seconds, we had 10 men around the car. They had weapons. They had, yes, they did. They
Wow.
did.
Wow.
Yes, they did. And I looked at that and I thought, holy Jesus Christ, really? You're looking at a Mercedes, you're looking at two white people, and I'm like, have we not evolved past this shit yet? To
Yeah.
everybody, I say that. Have we not evolved past that yet?
There is a lot of deep ancestral wounding.
Yes.
And Anahola is very rich in native culture and local culture. And so that, you know, that type of an experience that you had, I think it's fairly common on that part of the island, just because their wounding, you know, their wounding is so great from how, you know, from how Kauai was well, essentially invaded, I guess, from white, you know, by the white people.
Yes.
I don't know that there will be a healing of that. There is a, you know, there is a movement right now to restore the Hawaiian kingdom back to the Hawaiian people. They want to emancipate from the United States.
Oh, and they should. Absolutely.
I truly hope
Absolutely.
in our lifetime that we see that happen for the Hawaiian people. And, you know, if I should get at that point, get invited to leave Kauai. I hope I don't. I hope I'm invited to stay. They will be able to kind of select as they should be able to. But if I am invited to leave, I will with grace in my heart and gratitude in my heart, be thankful for the time I got to spend here and move on.
You know, I honestly, truly believe that, and it's another reason why I'm so connected to Lemuria, to Kauai. I honestly believe that in our lifetime, we will see this separation, this emancipation.
Right.
You know, it's like when the British, because I'm British, invaded half the world, you know, and they took Hong Kong and they took India, and we're like, well, it's British. No, it's bloody not. It's bloody Indian. It's bloody Chinese, or you know, Japan, whatever. And there
Right.
has been this need for certain beings across history to take land, to snuff out the beauty of the indigenous people. And
Right.
you know, people like you and I come in this color skin, but on our watch, I know we're damned if we're going to allow that to be. We're here to support our indigenous brothers and sisters, of
Right.
which we have all been before, you know, to see the beauty of the Hawaiian Islands restored, you know,
Right.
restored and
The
not
sacredness.
right, the sacredness, the, you know, and as you know, I've told you before, I'm very blessed to know some really deeply, incredibly long ancestral lineages on that island in particular, you know, and I'm very honored to have that awakening, and those people that I speak to quietly, none of which have been on my public platform yet. But they are there, and we connect for a very, very good reason, a very strong reason, you know, and it is also for that honoring, you know.
Right.
I've got a big mouth, I'm a loud girl, and when there is injustice, I don't care who you are, you know. I mean, I say I don't care who you are. If there is injustice that needs to be having a light shone on it, then let us do that, let us do
Right.
that, let us bring proof, let us be sure, let us be sure. So as we go into the things that have been done, the judgments that are there, the rights, the wrongs that need to be righted, can we go into your memories of Merlantis and experiments that happened that you are very clear that you were part of?
Okay. So it's important to note that, I mean, we are multidimensional beings. I think most people recognize that we have many, many existences simultaneous. Nothing is past. Nothing's past, present, future. It's a construct on this planet. It's all simultaneous. And so your oversoul, my oversoul is so great, holds so much energy and light that it couldn't possibly come down all at once and be Dani, because your physical body would, you know, blow up. You couldn't maybe hold all that light. My body couldn't hold all that light if there was only one soul stream of me happening from my oversoul. So, I mean, God's pretty smart. So just like the sun is divided into many, many, many billions of rays of light expended all over the universe, because if it all came down in one ray, the Earth's going to blow up. Your oversoul also expresses itself in many, 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 many different existences, realities, dimensions, universes. We all have different aspects of ourselves happening at the same time. We aren't aware of them, because if you knew that, I mean, you couldn't hold your thoughts. And if you knew, well, I'm living, that's, you know, that's where we get maybe people with some schizophrenia happening. They're accessing too many aspects of themselves, and the being in this body can't function. So the protection is that we don't remember all these different existences of ourselves consciously until we start doing our spiritual work and we start going on shamanic journeys, we go past life regression, we meditate, or we start to become aware of our multidimensional selves, and at the same time maintain the integrity of the being on this timeline. Because this is the timeline, this is the essence in the body that is, you know, most important. Okay, we start to recognize and realize, like I did, that I have a Mer existence that is very powerful for me, that I chose to remember and bring through to help with my mission on this planet. My memories of Atlantis, my memories of Merlantis. I have many other existences and other information, but this is the main soul stream that I am here to adhere to and remember. So because we have many different aspects and existences, it means that we are in different places all at once. So I have an aspect of myself, of my oversoul, that was in Atlantis performing genetic experiments in Atlantis. And I know this because I was reading a book by Dolores Cannon one day, one of her convoluted universe. I was reading an accounting of one of her clients who were called being an Atlantean scientists and performing these heinous experiments, blending different beings together. And I dropped the book on my hand and I started to sob frantically, apologizing, like just crying out, apologizing, because I knew I had done the same thing. I had a full-blown remembrance that there was an aspect of my being that had done exactly that. And I had created deep, deep harm on other beings. When I remembered that I wasn't just the good guy, the good mermaid, the hero, when we start to recall perpetrator lifetimes, which is a very brave thing to do, by the way. It's very easy to remember victim or the hero, right?
Yeah.
When you start to remember you did some horrible, nefarious things in other realities, and we have all done it. Just like we've all been black, white, gay, straight, reptilian, mermaid, whatever. Okay, we have all done horrible things on this planet specifically. When I remembered that being who had done those heinous acts, I saw him looking at me, asking me to help him to resolve and heal his karma, the mess that he had made during that Atlantean existence. And I realized that I am here, and I think that many of us are here to balance and harmonize the karma of many of our different aspects, not only our ancestral lineage, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our great-grandfathers. We're here to neutralize that as well, to help and heal that. We're also here to gather our aspects who did not return to the Creator because of the messes they left behind, and bring them home and heal them by our dharma and our service to this planet on this timeline. So I'm just going to pause right there because I know that was a lot.
And beautifully delivered, Ameera.
Thank you.
Beautifully delivered. And, it takes courage to say that, you were less than great and kind to all beings and all species.
Yes. We don't want to believe that we're that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been owning that. I tell the story of the old man that would haunt me. And this old man would come through the wall in my bedroom as a little girl, and he would hold this big sack. And in the sack, I knew there were black puppies, and I knew that he was going to drown them. And he would come, and he was physical. He would drop the sack on my body. I'm 5, and I would feel the weight of it. It was beyond traumatizing. It messed me up for a long time. And then I remember I was in my 30s, and I was reading the Da Vinci Code in bed at 2 a.m. And then I'm in America, I think, at the time. And he came through the wall. He disappeared when I was around 12, went into puberty. He came through the wall, and I screamed violently at him to get out. Like, how dare you show up and try and intimidate me after all these years? And then I realized, oh my God, that was me in a past life, and part of my looking for forgiveness. So then I came to understand what you're saying. When there's an aspect of us that is still not healed, we get to do that in this body by getting over our huge egos and acknowledging I could have been a bit unkind and cruel, maybe even evil in a past life, but not for people to go, nobody likes a victim or a martyr. Can we please be done with those days too?
And that's part of what I was going to go next. We have a victim martyr program in the collective. And we also have like a savior martyr program in the collective that really needs to collapse, because when we go into that mentality of victim perpetrator, and we adhere to those archetypes and those stories, the blame and the shame and the bad guy, the good guy, it keeps us trapped in a paradigm or in a program that doesn't allow us to understand the totality of our soul and bring those other parts of ourselves back home and send them back to the creator. I believe one of the main ways we are sending is, I talked about how, we have a soul stream of light from our oversoul that we hold. The more that we gather up our other aspects and send them back to the creator by the efforts we're doing here, when you have, less wattage coming out because more of it's coming back, what happens to the soul streams that are left? What happens to the aspects that are left? They're going to get brighter because there's less going out all over. Okay, so what's left over is going to become brighter. As you heal your other timelines and our other selves, our other dimensions, our other personalities, okay, heal those shadows, bring them home. That gives us the ability, because there's not so much extraneous energy going out, to hold more of our soul essence or our light or whatever you want to call it on this timeline.
That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful. Another area that needs to be, I feel, highlighted is when we think of, let's say, Hawaii and the islands, that we could only imagine them being in their, former indigenous form, like brown-eyed, black hair, beautiful. They're so beautiful. And there's such a mixture today of the Polynesians and Japanese, and it's so beautiful. But I don't see the space there, or the knowingness that there were white people, there were blue-eyed, blonde-haired Lemurians too.
Yeah.
And when we stop trying to protect everything, because we truly believe, and there's been such attack on the islands and all the indigenous people across the entire world, nobody got to not be abused. No one, no color.
Right.
But when we can allow the thinking around, there could have been some really beautiful, then it allows for the people who are so wounded, the ancestors, the people now, to help heal their souls, because we're all here to heal something, know. And again, as we talk about Atlantis, Merlantis, your experiences there, it is allowing people to go into their imagination. What if they were part of, this beingness that you truly believe yourself to be? So what would you say to somebody who feels like she or he has dolphin energy or mermaid energy? What would be some of the ways they could recognize those signatures that exist within them?
Obviously you would know if you were drawn to water, like overly drawn to water, like love water, love the sea creatures. For me, I have a big thing for sea turtles. They're one of my totems. Dolphins are one of my totems. So if you just know, it's a feeling in the soul, it's a feeling in the heart, it's a connection. And I would say to anybody who has that, like, they just know that it's okay to follow it. It's okay to admit that to yourself and other people if you want to, and not deny yourself, not let your ego, because you're afraid, to talk you out of something that is really actually important to your soul. And it doesn't matter if it's mermaid, dolphin, water. Some people are very drawn to, owls or bears or elves or star people. We are so multifaceted and so much more beautifully complicated than we're taught, that when you start to tap in and look at those things that draw to your soul and hold your soul, there is a filling and a peace and a beauty that you offer yourself, because suddenly you've realized you're so much more than, this simple human that religions or parents or whatever box we've been put in, that we truly are, and we are capable through our 12-strand DNA going on 13-strand DNA, we are capable of doing so much more for ourselves and for this planet than than we can even possibly know.
Yeah.
And for people who maybe there's some people who have a bit of an Atlantean shadow, meaning maybe you were a Lemurian and you were in an existence during the incarnation where Atlantis and Lemuria were together, and the Atlanteans were so horribly enslaved. Maybe you were in a genetic experiment by the Atlanteans. And so there are many people who are like, why are we doing this Atlantis thing again? Atlantis sucks. Atlantis was so horrible because of what they felt and experienced. And so again, I'll go back to We were all there. You have aspects of yourself likely who are in some capacity took part in the travesty, as well took part as perpetrator and took part as victim. And just like, okay, so why is it important to redo the Atlantean spiral? We see it out in the world, the repeats. We see out in the world, like the timestamp and all the things with AI, all the things that are happening. And so this is why Atlantis is important, and it is important to us to heal this spiral. Just like on the microcosm event, if you have a pattern, if you or I have a pattern, let's say in relationships with male relationships, and many of us in this lifetime have patterns in relationships that are lather, rinse, repeat. Different face, same relationship, same toxic patterning. Spirit trying to deliver us another opportunity to recognize and step out of the pattern and heal ourselves of something that is toxic or harmful. If we don't go back into the fullness of Atlantis, the bad and the good, and make a different choice and create a different outcome, this is the only way we can heal the spiral. This is the only way we can heal that timeline, is if we face this together, all of it, and collectively, individually and collectively decide we're going to create something new this time and step out of that pattern. Because I think Atlantis had 5 incarnations, risings and fallings, all 5 of them, same outcome. What if this time we collectively come in with all the tools, right? All the support, the learning, the talk shows, the shamanic journeys, the helpers, the healers that are going to allow us to gain that self-awareness that is going to break us free and create something new this time around.
Yeah. You know, I know that there is a lot of triggering on all aspects of Atlantis. I also know that there was a capital at La, and that these incredibly beautiful, powerful people came from pure love, work with their beautiful crystal technology. So we're not taking anything away from that beautiful truth. We're just shining a light, as you choose to, on the underbelly, on the Atlantis, which we'd never heard of, most of us.
Yes.
And that the aspects in us that need healing, there's a reflective story, a tale from long ago that we can also draw from in order to help ourselves. You know,
Atlantis was designed to be utopia. It was designed to be paradise. It was designed to be a complement to Lemuria, masculine and feminine, harmonized. Okay, that was the intention of Atlantis. And again, we are trying to get back or allow that or help that to happen, because I feel that the fallout between Atlantis and Lemuria, you know, that split was, I believe that the microcosmic split that happened within us, within our own masculine and feminine that we're trying to balance in this lifetime, was caused by that macrocosmic split between Atlantis and Lemuria.
Yeah. You know, again, legend says that, and many people truly believe, I'd like to see if you have a thought on this, and if not, it doesn't matter. But we are told that the Sumerian bloke Enlil destroyed Lemuria, and the same bloke, the warring warlord, also destroyed Atlantis. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's that Cain and Abel story, the good brother, the bad brother, playing out on a galactic scale that was brought back down through, you know, Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, and Cain and Abel, where one was the good and one destroyed the other. So I tend to look at all these stories as something that are archetypal lessons, whether that's a galactic story, or that is a biblical story, or a Sumerian story, or you know, whatever story we see playing out between Seth and Osiris, the warring brothers, the good brother and the bad brother. I tend to see everything from archetypal perspective, trying to teach us and help us, because I believe with all my soul God, or whatever we would call God, has always been in charge, has always held space for all of creation and the experimentation. And that if we trust that I have no choice but to believe this planet is going to be exalted. If I don't believe that with my entire being, that we are here on this timeline to exalt this planet, then I have no business doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I believe this is a no-fail mission. And so again, collapsing the programs, because now there's people on the internet fighting, and Lil Enki and Lil Enki.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's all, and it's a distraction.
It is a distraction.
Because it doesn't matter. What matters is what we're doing here and now. Yeah. And by the way, I have a very close relationship with Poseidon / Enki. And my tendency is to believe and know that Enki, Poseidon is my association, is here to help us, to help us with the restoration. And many of these beings also, remember, they did horrible, heinous things. I'm part of a soul stream of when I say greater being, I mean a being that's, maybe more galactic, or I'm not aware of, that has done heinous things. And I believe that I am here as an avatar of that being to help and course correct the mess. Okay. Many of us have come as an avatar because they can't do it unless they come into a human body. So we have these humans who have come back down in the avatars of like really nefarious beings who are wreaking havoc on the planet. And then we have beings who have come here, like say you and I, who have come here to help restore and to help. And again, we have this fighting and this good guy and this bad guy scenario and these archetypes that we're playing out until we collapse the archetypes, which are victim perpetrator, which are, I'm the savior, I'm here to save you. We're not here to save anybody but ourselves, in my understanding. If I get my own shit straight, if Ameera hears her own shadows and her own demons and her own BS, that is going to be the ripple effect that is going to go out and help and inspire or support other people doing the same thing. I'm not here to save you. You're not here to save me. I'm not even here to argue with anybody about what's to be done. I'm here to get right with this gal.
I know what you mean, girl.
Me and God is between me and God. Yeah. We all get lost in the illusion. That's very easy to do. We get lost in the distortions. That's very, very easy to do. Guilty as charged. I do the same thing. And every time I have to look at all sides of the Rubik's Cube and all the players in the game and realize what a game this is. This is a game we're playing here. And remember what's real. And what's real is my soul. And what's real is love. And every decision that I make in every single moment of my life is creating the direction of my soul and how I'm going to either help or hurt this planet.
Perfect. Now, sirens versus mermaids. Please.
Okay, sirens versus mermaids. Okay. So this is a really good topic because I have a lot of people ask me about this. So sirens are not organic mer beings. They were a creation of Atlantis. So when you hear the stories about, the sailors who come upon these, or hear the call of these beautiful voices, and, they come upon this pod of these beautiful fish women, and then as soon as they get close enough, they eat them. Those are not true organic mer. Those are an inorganic simulation created in the mer experiences. So I don't know if you ever saw the movie Pet Sematary. It was a Stephen King movie when we were young. Remember when the whole Stephen King thing was going on, and people would take their pets to this specific cemetery and the pets would come back to life, but they wouldn't be the same. They would be not right. Okay. Because you cannot create something that is organic from what is not real. So we cannot take a DNA and genetics. Only God can do that. Only God can create. Now, yes, he's given a power and opportunity to other beings to create things. But ultimately our food, all of life, if it has not come from something that is organic in nature, that is straight from God, it is not going to show up in this reality as something that is benevolent. If there's going to be something wrong with it. I didn't say that very well, but I think you know what I mean. We cannot modify things and expect them to be okay. We cannot modify our body with substances, with injections, and think that we are going to be okay. And so this is some of the experiments that were happening in Atlantis, where they were, because of ego, to see what they could create. This will be fun. We're going to play God today. We're going to sit down and play God and see what we can make. Okay, that is a distortion of all of God and life and nature. One of the lessons we're learning again this time around.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Shall we touch on your thinking around the 13 chakras?
Yes. So many of us have an association with the number 13. It is the goddess number. And it is also the number of spheres that are in Metatron's cube. And so I have a close association with Metatron. And again, I'm going to point out, because there's some controversy about Metatron and archangels, that you are either working with the divine eternal presence of something, or you are working with the inversion. You and I have inversions of ourselves, maybe in this reality, but in other realities. And we have our divine eternal presence that we can pull in and act from if we choose to. Okay, so when I say I'm working with Metatron, and every deity out there has a matrix version and has a divine eternal presence, just like every symbol, symbols can be inverted. Everything can be inverted to something that is either inorganic or malevolent. Okay, so you can think of many examples of symbols right now that have an inversion. The pentagram's a really good example of that. Okay, because there is a force that used the pentagram other than something for natural magic. Okay, so when we as humans are tapping into or accessing beings in other dimensions, it is very important that we are aware of who we are talking to. Is this the matrix version, or is this the divine eternal presence version? Okay. I can show up in this reality and talk to somebody and be a less than divine version of myself, an ego version. Or I can show up and be the very best, highest, most loving, grace-filled version of myself with the people I come across. Again, it's that macro to the micro. So I want to be very clear that I know that I am accessing the divine eternal presence of the being known as Lord Metatron. Okay, and you can believe me or not believe me, just like some people believe Poseidon, Enki, whatever. But I know to my core that this being who has been my teacher, I am not a channel, but he is my teacher, has shown me that we are, that Metatron's cube is a type of template for the human chakra system. The Atlantean system is 13 major energy centers, from the Earth star beneath the feet, the golden gateway above the head, and the sacred soul in the center, the 13th. And he showed me how, we're not linear beings, obviously. Why are we working with our energy centers in a linear fashion? Okay, that's how maybe we need to, but that we are actually multidimensional beings, just like Metatron's cube, that our energy centers are around us. The hub is the sacred soul chakra. Okay, so we can work with them linearly, but I've learned to work with my body as energy, my 13 energy centers, and I've gone through and I've made a program where I've named all the chakras, all the spheres of the chakra, 360 degrees around me. And by doing this, by listening to the guidance that we can access our energy centers multidimensionally through the number 13, which is the creation, the goddess number. And remember, every line on Metatron's cube penetrates a sphere. So you can think of it as a sperm and an egg. Okay, the sperm, the phallus, needs a destination. The destination is the feminine. The destination is the sperm going to the egg to create life. There is no life without the penetration or the integration of the masculine and the feminine in real life, and also in the template of Metatron's cube. So it's really a template or a way for us to look at creation and the creation we create without or around and within us through sacred geometry.
It's
We also have, sorry, one more thing. We have the integration of the Merkaba also, the masculine and the feminine in Metatron's cube. So the upward and the downward facing triangles coming together that represent the masculine and the feminine as well.
So thank you for explaining your understanding of Metatron's cube and the way that you work with it. Thank you for saying that there is a matrix Metatron cube,
Yes.
a designed AI inverted dark vibratory resonance. For people that don't know who Metatron is, when I very first heard the name, I thought, what a load of bollocks. What is this? More manipulation, surely. And then I came to understand that Metatron and Sandalphon, who are the only archangels who don't have an EL on the end of their names, Michael, Jophiel, Haniel, Raziel,
Of God, yes.
etc., of God, close to God, the Elohim, for example. Again, there's more exploration on the word Elohim. We're not going to get into that, but everything that you and I are doing right now, in particular in this broadcast, is to allow free thought, allow people to think. So with Metatron and Sandalphon, they apparently were human. Elijah and Enoch, apparently. Now, again, people that are very married to the Bible, it can be the only way. You know, there's an invitation for them to think with their own mind and their own thoughts, rather than let that fear of a child trigger where they've been programmed with fear to not even think around the corner on that. Who was Elijah? Who was Enoch? Who were any of these people? I myself do not resonate with Metatron and the cube. I just don't. I can't connect to it. I don't feel the resonance of it. It doesn't mean anything. It's like you said each individual is here to connect to and tone through, harmonize, vibrate through their own soul connection to Creator. So I can say to you, I don't resonate with the cube, with the Metatron at all, but doesn't mean I'm disrespecting you. It doesn't mean that I'm challenging you and that now we can't be friends. Oh my God, can we get past that shit? Like humanity, is it not time? You know, I can listen to you. I can look at the way that you eloquently, intelligently express that as a belief that you hold because you've had proof for your individual self of that, right? And then I can sit and hold space for us to have a conversation and go, okay, and I can tell you what I feel about it. But we can do it as grown-up girls, as grown-up women.
There are many pathways up the mountain to ascension. What you vibrate towards, what I vibrate toward by virtue of our soul signature can be different. It's not supposed to be one way. A religion would tell us there is only one way, right? Okay. So it does not matter, whatever your soul signature, whatever you are vibrating towards as you're learning, as your teacher, as your pathway, doesn't matter if it's the Atlantean pathway, the Nordic pathway, the Lemurian pathway, the Native American pathway, the Christian pathway. We all get to choose what is in our alignment. And where I get a little upset is when people call out other teachings, other ways as inferior or as not true, when it's just a different way. And so people who will align with me, who will be vibrating with the Atlantean and the Mer path. And if you're not, then you're vibrating towards something else. And that's perfectly fine. Everybody needs to find what suits their soul. Sometimes we need a specific teacher or a specific teaching for a while, and then we've maybe completed that, and we're drawn towards something else because our soul is here to learn and create, period. We are here to learn and create, and we get the free will to do that.
You know, years ago, I did an experiment for myself as I was studying what I felt drawn to study living in different countries, as I still do to this day, but also look at different cultures and religions. And I decided I would immerse myself into as many religions as I could possibly.
Right. Yes.
Right. And you know, and then again, of course, because there's so much judgment, but I really resonated with Kabbalah, the
Hmm.
ancient Kabbalah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed wearing the red string for a while. And it was all around the time when, Madonna was making it cool. And,
Yeah.
I got, my head was turned and I went and I was playing with somebody, one of the rabbis in Los Angeles. And, I never signed up to it, but I wanted to feel the energy frequency. I wanted to read their sacred scrolls, their
Yeah.
texts, their ancient teachings. And for a while, it fit me. I got something from it. With the red string, the only thing that it taught me was not to judge, not
Yes.
to, it wasn't about having the evil eye, protecting from the evil eye. It was about trying not to judge, which at times I still do.
Yeah.
And then I found suffocating. I found the Catholic and I found the Christian. I found them suffocating. Mormonism, Jehovah Witnessing. When I really dived in and saw the story of origin, the original story, the founding nucleus, the explosion of this rules, this system. I resonated, but I also loved the Hindu. I
Yeah.
loved the Hindu. I love learning about Maruga and oh my gosh, Ganesh, Lord Ganesha, and so many Shiva and Parvati
Yes.
and Krishna, and those beautiful stories. And then the more I went back down the ancient route of learning about these religions, I realized that they're all pretty much
The
largely
same.
same story.
Yes. My
Same
my
story.
my very first mentor taught me the importance of contrast. That the way we predominantly learn is through people who are different than us. And if we are not willing to open our minds and our hearts and sit with people who are different and learn where they came from, why they believe what they believe, and what they're all about, we don't learn. Contrast is good. Difference, uniqueness is good. I did the same thing you did when I awakened. I just wanted to study every religion that was out there. I grew up Catholic. That was all I knew. I didn't know anything else was really possible. And I threw myself into Gnostic studies, Buddhist studies, Hindu studies, because I felt like I want to learn what makes these people tick. What is this religion all about? And I loved it. It was like just this glorious, unboxing of everything, of all these worlds I never knew existed. And I still hold different parts of those teachings and those deities and those, all those teachings close to my heart and draw upon them from time to time until I found my path.
I truly believe there is something beautiful in every single so-called religion, and every single religion is man-made. It's
Yes.
created on this planet. It
Yes.
is from man, woman, man. But I do believe at the core, there is, or the place where we find love within these
Yes.
structures, there is something beautiful to be
Yes.
said. We mentioned the chakra system, your belief in the Atlantean chakra system. I love that you highlighted the number 13. The darkness that doesn't want the light to shine in all of us beautiful humans, tried to dismiss the number 13 and of course failed. But can
Yeah.
you believe over millennia they've even not had floor number 13? It's supposed to be unlucky. It
Right.
is so beyond time for us all to question, why does somebody say that? What is this superstition? Where did it come from? What are the
It's
roots?
an inversion. They
Right,
inverted it.
100%. What are the roots of these words? Now, many words on our planet are rooted in Greek and or Latin. They seem
Right.
to be the two most predominant. Of course, we've got ancient Aramaic too, but just to keep it simple, Greek, and like the word psychic is the Greek word for soul. That's it.
Mhm.
It's quite, again, welcoming people to the idea. It's your time to journey. It's your time to own who you be in this moment and discover and read and explore. But I wouldn't do it all online because there's so much stuff now that we're told is true, like
I know.
Wikipedia. It's like, forget it. They've all gone in there. It's like my good friend, Dr. Christiane Northrup, one of the single most respected surgeons, medical surgeons on the entire planet. The woman has created and invented ways to help women across women, the females, okay, with the female bodies that have periods and vaginas, and
Yes.
has created so many beautiful ways for them to not suffer. She is an icon
Yes.
in the medical history. But if you look at her Wikipedia now, because she's had the courage
Right.
to tell the truth on what's in certain ingredients and certain things on the planet in the industrial medical complex, she's now written up as a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes, I
so
saw that.
it's absolute evil and wicked. It will be undone. The light is shining. But there's a good example. So I just encourage people, like, get in the library, read old books that somebody hasn't messed about with, encourage your children to do joined up writing. In America, you call it cursive. Let's get back into the brain, back into study, back into feeling, back into holding a book, back into learning for ourselves. We are all able to book learn at some point or other. But yeah, it's a great time of real deep diving discovery. I feel like there's a little more. Number 13, chakras, yes. And then let's talk a bit
Yes.
more about mermaids and
Okay.
how can feel themselves into the mer existence. Your book.
Okay. So where am I starting?
With your book.
13?
The
Oh.
13, but the reason why you wrote your book for children.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I brought a book that I wrote for children some years ago called Body of Stars. Body of Stars. And the reason I wrote this book is when I first went through my awakening, speaking of Goddess and the 13, when I first came into my spiritual awakening, I entered a practicum called Maiden Spirit. And it was a program where, as a facilitator, I got to go through and learn to teach girls between 9 and 13 who are entering menarche about their bodies, about the sacredness of their bodies and what it means to be a goddess. It was my first experience with the feminine face of God instead of the patriarchal face of God and goddess energy. Young girls, women, the media gives us all these inversions of our bodies, of our intuition. The girls in general are not given a rite of passage into womanhood. Women are not allowed to embrace, young girls are not allowed to embrace their bodies just exactly as they are, without all these other influences telling them how they should look and how they should feel. So we talk about periods. We talk about the gifts that come with being a woman, okay, and coming into womanhood and goddess archetypes and things like that. So I went through this 9 months training. I got to have my first, or what's the word I'm looking for? Ceremony that I never got to have as a young girl. Coming into my first menarche, okay? So I got to go back and rewrite that whole history for myself, and graduated from this program. And my culminating project was to write a book. And so I chose to write a book, a chakra book for children. It's for boys and girls, geared a little bit more towards girls because the program was. And so I take the reader through the first 8 energy centers, which are the Earth Star up through the crown chakra. Talk about your intuition, talk about grounding with nature, talk about all the different colors of the energy centers, talk about spending time to tune into yourself, because young people, girls and boys, need to learn about how to tune into their own body as energy and listening to the messages of your body. And so Body of Stars is available on my website. I think I sent you the link. And it is a way, it's really made for children, maybe kindergarten through 6th grade or so. I have a lot of adults buy my book because they're like, I need to learn this. So I need to go buy your book. And it's my offering out to the children, the new earth children of this world, for parents to have a resource to help them. And, you know, in a time where there's an agenda right now, specifically against the eradication, or at least the minimizing of biological women, you know, there is nothing except someone like you or I who have been born into a feminine body, who experience being a young girl, who experience being a girl going through her first cycles, and the bombardment that we get from all around us about what that means, and coming into our impending womanhood. The agenda to minimize the sacredness of the feminine and the feminine biology and the feminine essence is something that I feel like I want to speak up about. People have the right to pay dress up and change and modify their bodies any way they want to. An adult has the right to modify their body any way they see fit. But when it comes to attacking and becoming misogynist against, you know, the female body, okay, and there is an agenda for that, there is nothing but that direct experience, that there's nothing but our direct experience that can truly understand what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a feminine. And I think that's an important thing to say and to state, no matter how controversial some people might feel about that this agenda, you know, really needs to come to completion, because this is also a distortion of Atlantis. And unless enough of us stand up and say, wait a minute, this is not okay, it is something that's going to try to continue on.
You know, it's a very important and beautiful subject. And the fact that you shared that the little girls coming into having their period and what that is, and how in ancient times, I read a book years ago called The Red Tent by Anita
The Red Tent,
Diamond.
yes.
I was in a book club and I loved that book. It was so honoring of the little girls and the women living in tribes, living in villages, as we did for millennia,
Yes.
and some, you know, cultures still do. And that when it was the time for the blood to drop, you know, the period, the girls to have and the women to have their period, they would go into a red tent and they would lay on straw, and the elders would pass down the stories to the young girls. And
it was celebration.
Yes, as it should have always been, as these bodies were designed to be honored, to have their natural flow, so that they're not, as they are now, stressed out to the max, using Tampax and, you know, whatever ways we do in the modern world. Not to say that that wouldn't have evolved to Tampax from lying on straw too, because nobody wants to walk around leaking everywhere. I mean, it's quite the thing that women have to deal with, of course. And it's one of those taboo subjects, but it was created to be taboo, so that we could be in this time now and be shamed and attacked into not speaking out on the obvious, you know, the things that matter. I had the opportunity years ago in my clinic, one young lady I was working with, I worked with many different troubled, disturbed, you know, children of divorce, I mean, all kinds. And one little girl, she was 12 years old, and she was in my clinic, and she had a terrible tummy ache. And as we're there sitting together, I suddenly realized that she's gonna have her first period. Now, I've been working with this child for over 2 years. I was close to her mother, and I was so happy that this extraordinary event occurred. It was quite sad because her mother had actually died. So I had extra affection to this young lady. Anyway, what happened was, as she bent over, stood up and bent over, and realized that she was cramping and was scared of what happening, I was able to hold her in a way, and I rocked with her. And it was just something I'd never seen or learned in this lifetime ever. I just knew what to do, and I gently rocked with her, and she literally had her period right there. And as you so beautifully expressed, the honoring of these moments, these very big moments, are something that we bring
it's
back.
vital. It is vital that we bring these rituals back in the sense of community and sisterhood. You know, drop the competition, drop the ego, and just be sisters and be goddesses or empresses and help each other and help these new generations of girls who are growing up with all these outside influences bombarding them all over the place, that's telling them what a girl or a woman should be, instead of letting them just be who they are.
The other thing is so important. There are children who are influenced and being told, being forced to ask themselves, am I a boy or a girl?
Yes.
It is a program. It is a pandemic created by the dark ones that want to terrify and control and confuse children, while parents are like, I want you to be who you are. I want you to be happy. Of course we do. But we're forgetting something very important. Children will die for their friends. They are diehards. They will match. They will mimic. They need to be that tribal being. There's something in them is awakening in their teen years, in their hormonal times. And so fighting the children on this is not going to help the families. Understanding, helping them, talk to them the right way. Let them know. Let them see the videos of men online who were once women. Let them see how these men have suffered, how they have to inject themselves every day of their lives, to take medication that messes them up. Let the children who think they're in the wrong body, and some of them are, but most of them are not. Most of them are not. Let the children see how the suicide rate is the highest of any other group, if you wish to group humanity. It is a subject we must not shy from. This was an implosion. It is a memory, past life memories we all have of the time of Atlantis, when there were dark elements and the experiments were tried on people. We're not saying everybody, we're not dismissing Atla, but there are children right now who are very confused because a lot of the adults and influences around them are trying to get them to be otherworldly. But also you could say someone like you, somebody that remembers being a Mer person, that in a child's awakening is also going to be something confusing.
Well, but it can be magical and wonderful, because we all like to make believe things like that when we were younger. It's part of our creativity. It's part of our embracing all the aspects of ourselves, which we did better when we were kids, right? And it's also the understanding that, you can carry all these different aspects or thought about yourself, but stay in your soul. Don't give your soul away to an idea or to a culture or to a pressure that wants to talk you out of really tuning into your own inner voice and following your own inner spirit, your direct connection with God, because we all have it.
Yeah. So again, and not shying away from subjects that are created to hurt, harm, and separate and divide. We've never been in such a time as this. And so with us bringing our knowledge and our truth forward, even if it is provocative, even if somebody was watching us, let's say in this conversation, and they were fine and open to Atlantis and Merlantis and Mintaka and, adding to their own treasure trove of stories and information that they've heard via others that they can then disseminate for themselves. But then once we got to talking about gender, they switch off because they are influenced heavily, or it's in their world, or it's in front of them, and it's causing pain, and they don't understand because they're not being given the allowing to think around all corners and to see
and
the
think about repercussions, like repercussion years down the road. The long-term repercussions of these kinds of experiments. We're all allowed to experiment on ourselves. A child does not have the brain development to look at the big picture. So that's when the parents, guardians, need to step in and really see all sides of the Rubik's Cube, get all the information that they can before they agree to or move their child in one direction or the other. Because we're going to have generations of children who are sterile.
Well, that's
generation of children who will, I know,
it's very
who will
simple.
never be able to have children because of a decision that was made for them at 13.
But listen to this. Make no mistake. the dark ones have already thought of that in the medical industrial complex. So they're going to make it so that you can have other people either carry for you. There are also artificial wombs that have been long manufactured. So we're only given a 3% maybe as to what is, but there's another 97% of darkness. This is a plan. If you want to genocide a humanity, which is very much the plan of today, then what do? You attack the food. You take all the organic seeds across the planet, off the planet, to make sure people can't grow their natural food. You mess with the water. You poison the water. You inject everyone. You create sterility and infertility. If you have a dark agenda, which the minions at the top and the dark ones, the small percentage, have done. So what do we do? Remember the rubella, mumps, measles, and rubella, you know, the jab that we had when we were 12 and 13 little girls in the 1980s and 90s, you know, and they've got better and better at it. Who was going around the world injecting children across China and India using experiments to make these people sterile, determining who has children and who doesn't, because these people are starving. Why are these people starving across the planet? Not by their own hand, by these systems that were put in place to genocide them. Why are the darker skinned people on our planet? Why are the ancient indigenous people on our planet targeted? Think about that. But that's for another conversation, because what we bring up here is the knowingness and the allowing that we can speak to whatever we choose, and you're being a known mermaid, you know, is a gift that will help other people assimilate feelings that they felt ridiculous about having. You know, can you give us some advice and final words on how somebody who believes themselves to have a connection to the Mer people, how they can soothe and comfort themselves, and how they can look after themselves as their memories start to come back to them?
Well, and I think no matter what association you feel you're a part of, there's that element of you that wants to be soothed and wants to feel comforted. And so something that is very helpful is I offer soul progressions and past life regressions, and I can take you into that version of yourself in your own soul records to experience that directly and like bring the pieces together of, okay, this is really true and authentic to my soul. And then we do healing, you know, healing with your soul, with your guides, if you like, and bring all the pieces together so you can have this feeling of I accept this about myself right now. Once we accept something about ourselves fully and completely, it's much easier to feel like it can be accepted out in the world. And honestly, it doesn't even really matter if people don't accept your truth or not. Our ego always wants that feeling. We all want to be accepted by our family. We all want to be accepted by our friends. Sometimes that's just not possible. What's most important is that you love and accept yourself, and you explore yourself unapologetically, okay, and really find out who you are and what you're capable of and what you know, because you and me, this world, we are the libraries they could not burn. We are the living libraries. Our DNA, okay, what I remember from Atlantis and Merlantis came through my own direct connection. It's in my cells and in my DNA, just like yours is. They could destroy Alexandria, they could destroy the skulls, but they cannot destroy us once we own our truth and once we stand up and say, yes, this is me, or this is us, or this is what I know.
Bloody hell's bells. That was brilliant. I love
we
that.
We are the libraries.
I've never heard it expressed in that way. Yes, we are the libraries that they couldn't burn.
We were the God's master plan. We were God's master plan. We were the Trojan horse. If everything physical gets destroyed, guess what? We got us and we got our records, and you know what your records are. We can all go up there and get them, or go out there and get them, or whatever you want to say. Go inside and get them.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Ameera Atlantis, it's been really lovely sitting with you again and hearing and being with your wisdom and your knowledge and your beliefs and your memories and your sharings. And I'm sure that there'll be people out there that receive it and that you really give them something to think about.
Can I offer a discount code? for
Yes.
people who want to work with me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So if you'd like to work with me, I think Dani's going to put my website in the notes. If you put in capital letters DANI and the number 22, Dani 22 capitals, that'll give you 22% off a session with me, a personal session. I'm going to leave that on there, evergreen. So even for people watching 10 years from now, if they would like to hit me up for a session, that'll still be valid.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks, Ameera. That's really generous of you. Thank you. And to you guys out there, thank you for being with us here today. And thank you for giving yourself permission to listen to a conversation about Merlantis, Mer people, other planets. And also look at where and if you got triggered, if there is some healing that you yourself can do, rather than just get mad at the person on the screen. Take some kindness to self. Take care of that little girl or that little boy inside of you. Nourish them, love on them. This is the greatest time of healing, and we're all going to get triggered by something or someone. But let us acknowledge that this is our power also to heal. My name is Dani Henderson. I send you my love, and I will see you soon.